Hello, my name is Jocelyn Panchal, Senior Products Manager of Power Platform and Copilot Security.
My name is Rashmi Mansur, Principal Product Manager for Resiliency and Compliance for Power Platform and Copilot. This is building safe and reliable Microsoft Copilot Studio agents. In this session, we will be covering pressing topics and answering key questions to ensure that your enterprise can create and deploy trustworthy agents with Microsoft Copilot Studio. We will touch on new authentication controls specific for AI adoption and leverage new customized experiences in the Power Platform Admin Center, or PPAC. Then, we will try out some of the numerous network security tools at our disposal and other means to protect enterprise data against exfiltration. Finally, we will close by ensuring that our crown jewel resources are resilient in the face of potential outages or disasters. Let's dive in. Here, at Microsoft, we are betting on Copilot Studio, or MCS, as the primary solution for agent customization and extensibility. With MCS, you can easily extend from Microsoft 365 Copilot or create operational standalone agents. No matter how much prior experience you have with developing business applications, whether you are a pro developer or a low-code maker, MCS is the solution for enriching your enterprise with AI-driven solutions.
With that, from the management perspective, we have heard a myriad of customer concerns with regards to administering AI adoption. The Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO, has top-of-mind considerations to ensure enterprise data security. The Chief Information Officer, or CIO, wants to ensure adequate visibility into agentic usage and maintain cost efficiency. The Operations Director strives to maintain operational scale and health. At Ignite 2024, in order to address these various personas top of minds, we announced the evolution of managed environments into a fully managed platform, ranging from managed security, managed governance, and managed operations, with the release of managed availability soon after. In this next section, I will be walking you through customized security, authentication, and access management for AI. Let's start by double-clicking on managed security. Managed security is one of the 4 key offerings of the fully managed platform suite, also including managed governance, managed operations, and managed availability. The framework touches on all the pressing topics and CISO top-of-minds needed to ensure protections for enterprise-grade AI readiness. The first pillar, security posture management, is embodied by the new Power Platform Admin Center's Security Hub. At Ignite 2024, we also announced the general availability of the new Security Hub in the new Power Platform Admin Center experience. Security Hub serves as a single pane of glass for Power Platform administrators to easily understand and manage their business application security posture, including agents made in Microsoft Copilot Studio. It hosts a myriad of capabilities that admins can leverage to take both proactive and reactive measures to ensure utmost platform security. Security Hub is also the home of a host of rich identity and access management settings, which continue to grow. There are features like tenant isolation to prevent exfiltration through use of connectors, an assortment of network controls for inbound and outbound traffic, and numerous access and sharing settings. Let's dive into a scenario to learn about some of our newest settings. In this demo, the goal will be to create an agent to answer questions about a product's line of laptops. Things to be considered in order to ensure data security include internal versus external use and authentication, preventing oversharing, and scaling for future development, and customizing a security strategy for organization-specific needs. Sridhar is a Copilot Studio maker who works for Aether, an electronics hardware company. He decides to create a Copilot Studio agent to answer questions about the laptops. Here, we can see the knowledge that Sridhar added is a Word document regarding the product's lineup. While Sridhar is a well-intentioned maker, he did not consider all of the security implications of his agent. He has made the agent available without requiring end-user authentication, a granular control that Copilot Studio makers have at their disposal. Let's switch to our potential risky, unauthenticated user's point of view. Here, an unauthenticated and anonymous user is trying to interact with the agent that Sridhar built. First, the user asks some innocuous questions, starting off with what models are available from the Aether book. Super valid use case for this agent, and they receive a rich response. Then they follow up with a comparison of battery life. It returns information on a clear winner. But then, the anonymous user attempts to ask a more risky question and starts to inquire about upcoming product releases. And to our surprise, that agent will actually go and give them a response. That information should be not overshared. Sridhar should have required end-user authentication to ensure that the private product's roadmap remains internal information only. The responsible admins catch wind of this vulnerability and decide to act fast. They head over to the new Power Platform Admin Center and select Manage. From there, they decide to create an environment group for internal Aether business solutions, not intended for public data. They add the environment that Sridhar was already building into that group. Then, they decide to start configuring some scalable rules which will apply to that environment and future ones that get added to the group. First, they ensure that end-user authentication with Entra is required for agents. Additionally, the admins had a chat with Sridhar about best security practices, and Sridhar now understands how security is a shared responsibility. The admins decide that Sridhar's agent has incredible value for internal use and want to support him in sharing it across the organization for usage, but they want to ensure that he remains the sole editor. So they allow him to share the agents with viewer permissions, but they choose to deselect the ability to share editing permissions. Once all the rules are configured, they publish the rules. Back on Sridhar's side, he can select settings in the Copilot Studio Maker portal and navigate to security for that specific agent. Now that the admin has configured the environment rule, when he selects authentication, the options for no authentication is grayed out. There, he is forced to select either manual or Entra ID authentication. He selects Entra and then saves. When he goes to investigate channels for publishing, he is now limited in his options to ensure authentication with Entra. Now, we can circle back to the unauthenticated and anonymous user. Once again, they pry, asking about the product's roadmap, but this time, they are stopped by an error message since they are not signed in. Back on Sridhar's side in Copilot Studio, we can see that he can choose to share the agent. We see here that he has already shared it with one person and can choose to add another. When searching and selecting another person to share with, we can see that this person will get viewer privileges, but not editor privileges as the admins have configured in PPAC. Finally, the admins decide that this would be a good environment for Sridhar to continue building business solutions in besides agents. Many of the settings they have configured so far have been Copilot Studio specific. While encouraging Sridhar to start making more apps and flows, they decide to configure one more setting to make sure that he doesn't incidentally expose business data again. So they decide to configure the block guest access setting, which will protect the other resource types, including apps and flows, from being leveraged by users who are not members of the Aether tenants. Guest access will now also be blocked by default for new environments to ensure least privilege access. After all that, the admins decide to take a look at their security score and see if there are any other security considerations that they may be missing. With a security score of 33%, it seems there's still some work to be done. They scroll down to see the active recommendations and take a look at what is left. They notice a few recommendations regarding network security and realize that this may not apply to them as Power Platform admins. Aether Electronics leverages ample network security controls from Azure. With the new dismiss feature, they can remove this IP firewall recommendation from the active suggestions. Once doing that, the admins can see the immediate improvement of their security score. They repeat this for the IP cookie binding feature, providing the rationale that they are leveraging different first-party solutions. If in the future the admin chooses to reactivate the recommendation because they decide to change network security investments, they can easily restore the recommendation and once again see the impact to the dynamic security score. To conclude, let's quickly revisit the original considerations. The goal was to be able to create an agent to answer questions about a product's line of laptops. Considerations included internal versus external use and authentication, oversharing, scaling, and customizing a security strategy. With Security Hub's custom recommendations and the new dismiss capability, coupled with the goal-oriented nature of the security score, admins can take action proactively and reactively while meeting their organization's specific needs. Then, with granular authentication controls and fine-tuned editor versus viewer privileges, admins can feel confident knowing who can leverage what AI capabilities in their organization. With easy platform-wide protections like guest access controls, there's a simple way to ensure that organizational data remains private. In this next section, we will learn how to leverage network security and data security for exfiltration-protected agents. Security Hub is also the home of a growing number of rich data protection and privacy settings. There are features like virtual network policies and data policies preventing data exfiltration. Let's discuss some of the fundamentals and then the newest capabilities. Network security requires a multi-layered approach. Through this visual, we can understand how various aspects of network security work together to enable safeguards at each of the different networking layers. The first layer starts with secure inbound connectivity, with features such as continuous access evaluation to secure identities, data policies or connector management to secure endpoints, and IP firewalls or cookie binding to secure networks. The next layer aids users leveraging data sources outside the platform, such as Azure M365, to mitigate the risk of exfiltration via extensibility. This layer ensures communication remains within the boundaries of the private networks via capabilities such as Azure Virtual Network. VNet allows you to leverage a secure and isolated environment for Azure resources while still allowing connection to on-premises networks via VPN. With these features, you are able to maintain compliance while having the control you need to leverage advanced capabilities like private endpoints or service zones. With the general availability of VNet support for numerous Power Platform connectors, which streamlines management in the Security Hub, you can easily leverage a private network without exposing these crucial resources over the internet, thereby protecting internal data from exfiltration risks. Use your sensitive workloads worry-free, knowing the egress traffic is safe. Further, with the availability of environment groups, customers have been increasingly moving their management strategy to the environment group level for a more enterprise-grade, scalable approach. So, with the evolution of data loss prevention policies to the new advanced connector policy experience, Power Platform admins are able to easily configure connectors at scale across environment groups. With the new experience, the former concept of business or non-business is sunset, with a simple add or remove button for a streamlined allow listing. This new rule also has the added benefit that any connector can be unblocked, including the formerly unblockable. In this demo, the goal will be to create an agent to evaluate customer feedback on a product release. Things to be considered include protecting private data, restricting IP range access, scaling for future development, and preventing exfiltration via extensibility. Let's meet Pradeep, a product manager at Contoso Electronics. He has recently conducted some product feedback across a large group of customers and wants to create an agent with Copilot Studio in order to easily digest the data. Pradeep starts off by selecting an advanced knowledge source, the AI Search Connector. This connector will help Pradeep ensure secure and scalable information retrieval for his generative AI scenario by leveraging a vector index to search across a myriad of Azure data sources like Blob and Cosmos. He verifies that his connection and index are both established and continues forward. After that, Pradeep quickly names his agent Product Feedback Survey and then decides that it's time to test it out. His first prompt for the agent is to return the name, email, and contact information for each of the customers who completed the survey. After a moment, the agent queries with the Azure AI Search Connector and returns a list of customers. However, this answer seems to have some personal information like phone numbers, so Pradeep's admins decide to take some measures to ensure security. Over in the Azure portal, the admin can dig into the networking information of the Azure AI search service that Pradeep was using. We can see that originally Pradeep was able to query just over a public network. In order to treat the customer's personal information with sensitivity, the admin decides to disable access via public network and then to create a private endpoint. This will ensure that the data remains secure and will only travel over that specific private endpoint. In the Power Platform Admin Center, the admin can visit the Security Hub and then select Data and Privacy. There they can verify that the environment that the agent resides in is associated with the correct virtual network policy. This will ensure that the data will travel over a private endpoint. Furthermore, in order to treat customer information with utmost confidentiality, the Contoso Electronics admin only wants Pradeep to leverage these types of agentic solutions grounded in private information from the office based in San Francisco. but based on his IP address, it seems he's on a trip to Washington. The admin decides that it's best to instill an IP firewall to ensure that this environment will only be accessible from the allowed listed IP ranges near the office. So they go to Security Hub and easily act on a recommendation to turn on IP firewall. They select the environment where Pradeep was building in and are able to add in the IP range of the campus in the Allow List field. Then they click over to the advanced settings and untoggle audit mode to ensure enforcement. Finally, save, and when Pradeep tries to leverage the agent remotely, he now gets blocked. Finally, the admin decides to add a few extra guardrails as Pradeep continues building more AI-driven solutions. First, the admin creates an environment group to manage Contoso Electronics customer feedback use cases and adds the initial environment that Pradeep was building in. From there, they're able to take advantage of a number of rules for environment groups, including the new advanced connector policies. The admin scrolls through the connectors that are currently allowed for this environment group. Thinking through future use cases, they decide to block a few more. With this new offering, all connectors are now able to be blocked and nothing is off limits, thereby minimizing the risks for exfiltration. Lastly, the admin checks on the access settings. Given that Contoso Electronics is not currently partnered with any other organizations, they check that tenant isolation is indeed restricted by default to make sure that all remaining connector usage stays safely within Contoso Electronics tenant boundaries. To summarize, let's briefly touch on the original considerations. The goal was to be able to create an agent to answer and evaluate customer feedback. Considerations included private data protection, IP range restrictions, scalability, and exfiltration prevention. With the virtual network, outbound traffic is safe from the risks of a public network. And then, with advanced connector policies, scalable extensibility via connectors is safe from data exfiltration. Allow listed IP ranges ensures easy access control, and tenant isolation keeps internal information safely within the boundaries of the tenant.
In this next section, we'll explore how managed availability ensures enterprise-grade resilience for Dynamics 365 workloads. Using Azure Availability Zones and features like self-service disaster recovery, you can seamlessly failover, replicate environments, and run disaster recovery drills, all from Power Platform Admin Center, ensuring uptime, compliance, and control during outages. Let's dive into a real-world scenario. Meet Anne. She is an IT director at a major airline. In recent months, she's been tracking several high-profile outages, ranging from a Cloudflare disruption that impacted core applications to a system issue that grounded flights across the country. These incidents aren't hypothetical. They are real, recent, and expensive. For Anne, resiliency is no longer just a checkbox. It's a business imperative. She's now focused on proactively identifying risks in her systems and understanding how outages, whether internal or across dependencies, could impact operations. She's asking, do we have the right recovery strategies in place? Are all services covered in our disaster recovery plan? And are we ready if something breaks at scale? Anne's story highlights why resiliency, visibility, and actionability are more important than ever. Now, let's zoom out and talk about why resiliency matters so much in the first place. To truly realize the benefits, resiliency must be designed in from the start. Power Platform makes it easy to build quickly, but as usage scales to business-critical scenarios, so does the need for resiliency. Failures, disruptions, and unexpected events will happen. How we prepare for them defines success. Resiliency should be a core part of every Power Platform and cloud strategy. Let's dive into the expectations of a head of operations as an example. As a head of operations, one of your top priorities is ensuring your business stays operational with minimal disruption. You need your mission-critical applications up and running no matter what. This means having a robust strategy for business continuity, keeping things always on to protect against local fires, regional weather events, or power grid failures. You also need to test and validate your business continuity and disaster recovery, or BCDR, plans in real time to ensure compliance. When outages do occur, you need full control over your emergency response and seamless restoration post-outage. And of course, a reliable data backup plan is crucial for peace of mind, allowing you to restore to a specific point in time and have an extra layer of redundancy. With AI agents powering mission-critical workflows, availability is no longer optional. Traditional backup methods are too slow for modern demands. That's why Microsoft introduced managed availability for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, offering seamless failover, enterprise-grade resilience, and always-on reliability. Built on Azure, it protects everything from Power Apps to Copilot Studio agents, even during regional outages. Industry leaders like NHS, Siemens, and Coca-Cola are already relying on it to safeguard their most critical systems. So, how do we minimize impact? We are going to walk through the principles that we use to make our services, our platform, our product offering reliable. Let's start with a key principle of resiliency, eliminating single points of failure. In any complex system, failures are inevitable, but the key is how we isolate and contain them to minimize customer impact. One of the ways we do this is through partitioning, which helps localize the scope of a failure. For example, recently one of our services experienced a spike in traffic that caused a cache issue. Thanks to partitioning, this issue was contained to a single region, preventing a global outage. In addition, we leverage Azure availability zones across our compute and data stores to ensure customers don't experience downtime. Availability zones are unique physical locations within an Azure region where customer data is replicated synchronously across at least 3 distant zones. These ensure no data loss and enable rapid failovers, achieving a recovery time objective, also known as RTO, of under 5 minutes. So, if one zone fails, customer traffic seamlessly shifts to the other zones with minimal disruption. However, resiliency is a partnership. We recently had an instance where Power Platform seamlessly failed over to other zones, but customer-owned Azure resources weren't zone redundant. While the platform worked fine, the customer was impacted. This highlights the importance of ensuring that customers also have zone-redundant resources for full end-to-end resiliency, and partitioning helped turn a potentially large-scale outage into a localized, manageable incident. That's the power of resilient architecture. Now, let's talk about the second key principle, fault isolation, using deployment practices. Even with multiple validation systems in place, there's always a risk that a regression could slip through. Our goal is to minimize the impact if that happens. That's why we use gradual staged rollouts to production. Every change is introduced slowly, moving through controlled phases, starting with internal environments, and then early adopters, and finally, broad rollout. Here's an example of this in action. We once had a code regression in one of our products. Thanks to safe deployment practices, the issue was caught early in Station 1, our first release ring. We immediately halted the rollout, and as a result, 98% of customer environments were completely unaffected. This shows how safe deployment strategies protect customers even when things don't go as planned. Now, let's move to the third principle, eliminating monitoring gaps. In any complex system, failures are inevitable. So it's critical that we catch them quickly and minimize their impact. That's why we constantly invest in strengthening our monitoring. After every incident, we ask, did we have a monitoring gap? If the answer is yes, we don't just patch it. We build broader monitoring to catch future issues in the same category. A great example is the Power Platform Gateway, also known as the on-premises data gateway. It securely connects on-premises data sources like SQL Server or SharePoint with Power Platform and Azure Cloud Services. Last year, this gateway experienced a crash loop caused by a failure in a related Azure service. Luckily, we had monitoring in place that detected the crash within minutes. An engineer was quickly engaged using a safety switch to disable the faulty path and restored the service within 45 minutes, preventing a much larger outage. Let us now see self-service DR in action. Self-service disaster recovery in Power Platform is generally available starting April 30. Here, I will show you how to enable DR for an environment in Power Platform Admin Center or PPAC. Just select the environment, turn on disaster recovery, click Save. As simple as that. To speed things up, let's switch to an environment that already has DR enabled. Let's look at the disaster recovery section and click Open. And under Select Disaster Recovery Reason, you have 2 options available to you: Emergency Response and DR Drill. Enabling either of the options results in continuous data replication to a secondary region within the same geography, usually about 300 miles away, using Azure availability zones. When you choose emergency response, you're signaling an immediate and urgent need for recovery, typically during a real outage or disruption. Business continuity is the top priority here. When you initiate a DR drill, you're simulating a recovery for audits, compliance checks, or internal planning. It's important to note that continuous syncing is always in progress, no matter which option you pick. To avoid capacity overage impacts, the environment here must be linked to a pay-as-you-go billing plan. If your environment already uses one DR, capacity is automatically billed to your Azure subscription. If it draws from tenant entitlement, that capacity is used first, but as pay-as-you-go plan is still required to cover overages and ensure smooth operation. Let us proceed with selecting emergency response and click Continue. Replication occurs over the internet, which may result in a minor replication lag. This lag represents the time between the current moment and the last synchronization point. The replication gap can be monitored and assessed against your recovery point objective, also known as RPO. In this instance, the gap is approximately under a minute. In emergency response, Power Platform does not create a new copy of your data. Instead, it uses the last complete and validated replica. After running pre-checks and validations, it proceeds to accept potential data loss based on this most recent full copy based on your RPO. I will now copy the environment name and confirm the failover. Failover typically takes less than 5 minutes. The system now progresses through the recovery phases: validate, prepare, run, and complete. Once complete, it switches the DNS and moves the environment into emergency mode, fully operational in the secondary region. Your environment is now resilient to regional outages and prepared for recovery thanks to automated replication and infrastructure management. Now, let's look at an environment that's already in failover mode. As you can see, once recovery is complete and things are stable, you can initiate a failback to your primary region from PPAC. You can see here the warning indicating that the secondary region is operating with limited resources. Therefore, we recommend reverting to the primary region as soon as it is healthy. Failback involves the steps of validate, prepare, run, and complete, ensuring near zero data loss if replication is current. Now, let's switch to look at the history of actions. On this environment, let's click on the History button. And all DR actions, whether emergency or drill, are logged in the environment history. You can track exact timestamps, reasons for failover, and monitoring how long each step took, giving you full visibility and auditability. As you can see, I've run multiple drills and failovers for this environment, all self-served, all from within PPAC. With this capability, you are in control of your business continuity strategy without delays, escalations, or surprises. Self-serve DR in Power Platform is available now, and it's designed for flexibility, resilience, and compliance readiness. Start planning today and keep your businesses running in the event of disasters. Let's talk about some best practices to make the most of disaster recovery feature. Start your disaster recovery journey by identifying and prioritizing mission-critical workloads, those that must always stay online in production. These are the apps your business can't afford to lose. Power Platform delivers Microsoft-managed high availability and disaster recovery through built-in geo-replication, ensuring business continuity even during regional outages. But don't stop there. Make sure to implement your own backup strategies for external systems like Azure services and third-party tools. Monitor your environment using Dataverse capacity reports and Azure Monitor to stay ahead of resource constraints. And as demand grows, scale seamlessly with Power Platform capacity add-ons to maintain performance and reliability. Disaster recovery isn't just about the platform. It's about your entire ecosystem. Make sure your critical Azure resources are geo-replicated and implement fallback strategies for APIs to stay resilient during regional failures. Regularly test failover scenarios to validate your recovery plan. Even though the Power Platform handles DR automatically, ensure your custom code and integrations are ready for failovers. Always verify data integrity and integration behavior post-failover to maintain seamless business continuity. With managed availability and self-service disaster recovery, you can proactively manage failovers, replicate environments, and run disaster recovery drills, all from the Power Platform Admin Center. These tools ensure that your mission-critical applications stay online and your business remains operational. By implementing the best practices like geo-replication, monitoring, and regular failover testing, you're preparing for the unexpected and ensuring business continuity.
Starting your enterprise's AI adoption journey amidst the rapidly evolving digital landscape can feel like an uphill battle. But don't let security and reliability be the biggest challenges. Equipped with scalable protections of managed security and the operational reliability of managed availability, rest assured that your mission-critical agentic workloads are fully trustworthy. Thank you.
Thank you.